Hey, look, we'll take it. We'll gladly take it. I know we had frustration that we had to let out yesterday. I think it's all still justified, but we will gladly take almost 10 runs put up in a series finale in which the Tigers clinch the series against the Kansas City Royals. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player bringing a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check mark. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Alrighty. Well, the Detroit Tigers win the series finale against the Kansas City Royals. Like I said, I know we were frustrated yesterday. Very justified. Getting shut out by the Kansas City Royals in 2023 is worth being upset. Very, very justifiable frustration. But they came out today and they put up almost 10 runs. They won by 5 runs. And it was a pretty comfortable victory, honestly. From the bottom of the second inning on, the Tigers were clearly the better team. Now, the first 3 half innings, I was a little nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay. But very quickly that ship kind of sailed, and the Tigers were pretty clearly the better team for about 7.5 or 8 innings here. So we'll take it. All right. We'll take it. I understand. It's just so interesting how many different angles you can really look at this series in, right? Like you can say, oh, we won a series. That's always good. I don't care if it's you're going up against the best team in the league or the worst team in the league. Winning a series is always a good thing. So you have that going for you. You very easily could have swept them. So that's kind of frustrating. You probably, there's an argument, should have swept them. The Royals are really, they are already have 54 losses. It's not even July, and they're already past halfway to 100 losses. Just a dreadful season in Kansas City. So there's a very real argument that you should have swept them. And I think that that's totally justified. Then on the other side, you have, they were one Kerry Carpenter swing in game 1 away from only taking 1 of 3 from Kansas City. You still got shut out. It's just, there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts around this conversation, I feel like. But at the end of the day, what did happen is the Tigers had a great day. Everybody really came through. I thought everybody but 2 players maybe, I thought had pretty solid games. And the team got a comfortable victory under their belt against an inferior opponent who they absolutely should have beat comfortably. And it was nice to just finally see this, even though it took 3 games. It was nice to just finally see them honestly just beat the crap out of a team that they're much better than. I don't care how bad you think the Tigers are. They're much better than the Kansas City Royals. That is a really rough situation. Okay. Let's start with Matthew Boyd. I feel like I say this after every single Matthew Boyd start, but it was a pretty on brand Matthew Boyd start. And I guess that's why I say it after every start, is because he has a brand and he sticks to it. And his final line in this game was 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 7 Ks. That's solid. That we'll gladly take that. Got him the first home win of the year for him. We'll take it. No walks, 7 Ks is beautiful. That's strike zone domination. But he did have a couple of very hard hit balls. One was feet, if not inches, away from being a 3-run homer and ends up being a 2-run double. And the runner gets stranded out there. So that works in our favor because it wasn't a homer. That's great. We'll gladly take it. I feel like I'll say that a million times this episode. But yeah, he still just has the propensity to leave the ball up, and he has trouble keeping the slider like below the kneecaps for well, I was going to say 9 innings, but he's not going to go 9 for 5, 6 innings in a row. He has a hard time doing that. He always had. He has, rather. He probably always will. But in this game, it didn't cost him. So he walks out of here with a pretty solid line under his belt. That's back-to-back quality starts, I want to say. So we'll always take that. And then, yeah, the one thing about Boyd when we signed him back last offseason was that we talked about some of the reasons why Scott Harris might be such a big fan of his. We signed him 2 off seasons in a row. I'd imagine he likes him a little bit, right? And we talked about, he kind of fits the strike zone domination mindset, like in the sense that, yeah, he's going to give up hard contact. He's going to give up his homers for sure. But at his best, he had a low walk rate and a really high strikeout rate. And, lately, we're finally seeing the walk numbers go down. But at the beginning of the year, he was walking people at a higher clip than we were ever used to, even in the early days of Matthew Boyd back in 2017-18. So it's nice to see him go back to, I mean, this is a great game. Like, this is, I don't even care if it ended up being a 3-run homer. I don't care. This was a solid outing. And he also did the opposite of what we're used to as far as, times faced through the lineup. We're used to Boyd doing really, really well for the first time through the lineup, then kind of struggling a little bit the second time, and then the third time getting rocked, honestly, and like all-star numbers against the third time through the lineup for him. And in this game, it was the opposite. The first time through, he really struggled. I was buckling up. I was kind of nervous. I thought it was going to be a rough outing for him. But then he buckled down after the second inning there and pitched 4 really, really good innings with like no legitimate threat really the rest of the outing. So good on him for being able to go through, again, even though it is a very, very weak and poor lineup, still being able to go through the lineup the second or third time through, I think, is a big accomplishment and something that we should tip the cap towards Matthew Boyd for accomplishing. So good on him. Yet nothing really, like his arsenal wasn't any different. His pitch mix wasn't any different as far as the when he went to certain pitches in each count. Wasn't really surprised with anything. It wasn't, again, it was a pretty on brand, Matthew Boyd outing. So let's head to the bullpen. We're going to save Brennan White for kind of a conversation on his own. So we'll just start with Vest and Foley. Will Vest, I thought, not too much to report. Again, just a solid outing. He goes 1 inning, 1 hit, no runs or walks. I already said 1 hit. 1 hit, no runs or walks, 1 strikeout. His ERA is down to 2.89. At his best, he can be a really solid reliever. Sub-3 ERA now. Outside of that one little couple of weeks stretch at the end of May to beginning of June, he's been pretty solid all year. So as long as we can just keep those poor stretches minimal, he's gonna be one of the more used relievers in this pen, especially with, last year the bullpen was so deep that Foley was kind of used as like the first out of the pen guy. I think Will Vest might kind of take the baton there and run with that role now that Foley is more of, probably the second highest leverage reliever on this team. I think there's a chance that Will Vest is now like the first out of the pen guy. They really like him as the opener. I think they really like what he offers in terms of like first out of the pen and mid-90s fastball, a really, really good slider when it's at his best. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. It's something I think I'm trying to keep an eye out for, just see like not how often, but just in what situation. I feel like Will Vest is going to pitch a lot of 5th and 6th innings going forward, which I like. I think that's one of the more underrated positions in a bullpen in all of baseball, is first out of the pen. So, okay, let's talk about Jason Foley at the other side of the break, and then we'll talk about Brennan White. But first, I got to tell y'all about our friends over at Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs rock. I'm actually wearing my Bird Dogs right now, believe it or not. They make you look good. They make you feel good. They are so comfortable. They are stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, to giving you a truly sculpted look. They do the exact same thing as Lululemons, but they fit way better and are honestly even more comfortable. They fit way better than your regular shorts, too, that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. And they have fixed that issue by inventing a cloud knit fabric that looks just like khakis, but it stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. They are the best. I wear them like swimming. I wear them out just as like my normal shorts. I wear them around the house. They're my favorite golf shorts. I'm literally wearing them right now, just like sitting here talking to y'all. So Very versatile, very comfortable, and they look great as well. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate y'all for tuning in every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow. We might just do like an organizational kind of roundup, just talk about where everybody's at. We haven't done a minor league update in a while. I don't know. I'm still game planning and trying to iron out what tomorrow's episode is going to look like. We have an off day today as you're listening to this. So we'll obviously preview the Minnesota series, but we just played them. So that's also like not a super long interview. Not a super long preview, but we'll figure it out. Okay, let's talk Jason Foley. Jason Foley, 1 inning, 2 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, no Ks. ERA is now 2.51 on the season. So he gave up a really hard hit double in this outing that was over Matt Vierling's head. But besides that, it was just a lot of ground balls. One of them was seeing eye, and the rest all got the job done. He had a fly ball as well. At some point, Jason Foley is going to go through like a week-long stretch or a 2-week-long stretch where he gets BABIP'd a lot. Okay, it's going to happen. And the reason for that is because he's not a high strikeout guy. And sometimes the ball just falls where they ain't, right? And so that's going to happen. I don't think that's what this was, by the way. I think that was just he finally gave up really hard contact, and then the rest was kind of just a normal Jason Foley outing. But that is going to happen. And I want everyone, because everyone's going to freak out when it happens. I can see it already. He's going to have like 4 or 5. 4 or 5 might be a stretch. He's going to have like 3 or 4 outings where it's just, he's not giving up homers or anything. And the stuff still is, 97, 98 with movement. But it's just a lot of singles that are just finding holes. And he's going to give up some runs. And everybody's going to lose their mind and be like, oh, Jason Foley's cooked. We should have traded him when he had value. He sucks now. And then he's going to go back to being dominant. And he's going to be fine the rest of the year. And I want all of you to remember this conversation when that happens and not freak out like everybody else. Now, if the stuff changes, then this conversation is null. And that is a huge problem. Okay. But you can say that about anybody. If he just randomly goes out there and starts throwing 93 with no movement, then like obviously that's different. But if he's still pumping 98 with the sinker and it still has the same spin and movement and he's still throwing it a lot and he's still getting ground balls a lot, worry about how often the ball is on the ground with him, not even necessarily how many runs he's giving up, because that is his value. And that's what makes him so good. So just keep that in mind throughout that. I can already see it happening. Again, I don't even think that's what this was, but it kind of just like gave me not flashbacks because I'm predicting the future, but whatever that is, a glimpse into the future. Brennan White rocks. I love Brennan White. He was on the show 6 or 7 months ago. You can go look at that. The audio quality isn't fantastic, but it's still good enough. And I really highly recommend just listening to him talk about his approach at the plate and whatnot, because he's a fascinating listen. He's just a baseball guy. After we hung up that interview, we just talked about baseball for like almost an hour afterwards. It was right in like the heat of the offseason. Cody Bellinger had just signed with the Cubs. We were just talking ball. And like, he's just a baseball dude, like through and through. And his stuff is phenomenal. It really is going to play. And if you remember back, like the reason that we interviewed him on the show was because he was a total surprise to get added to the 40-man. The 40-man roster deadline was last fall, and you have to add certain players to the 40-man to prevent them from being eligible for the Rule 5 draft. And we were expecting Parker Meadows to get added. We were expecting Reese Olson to get added. And we were expecting, Wilmer Flores to get added. And besides that, we were like, oh, well, that's probably it. And Andre Lipsius got added. And we were like, oh, wow, that's a little bit of a surprise. But, like, good on him. I love Andre Lipsius, so that's fine. But then they added Brennan White. And that was totally out of left field, right? Like, that one was totally not predicted by anybody. And he had a great season in Erie last season. And one of the reasons that was cited as to why he was added, there were 2 big ones. One was he gets a lot of swings and misses on his fastball. He can throw the fastball up in the zone and get a lot of swings and misses. It's a really nice pitch. It's a really effective pitch given he explained it all on the interview, like the bat path versus the fastball path that he has. Really fascinating stuff. And then also he pounds the strike zone. He does not walk anybody ever. And that is, again, we've said it a lot, but exactly what Scott Harris is looking for. Okay. So Brennan White, he goes 1 inning, 2 hits, 1 earned run, but 3 strikeouts in 1 inning, and his ERA is 2.84 now on the season. I really am a huge believer in this kid, and I think that he can be a really, really good reliever for a while. It's really just the fastball slider mix. That's really it. He has a sweeper if he wants it, kind of like a little bit more loopier of a breaking ball, but he is so darn good. And I have very, very high expectations for him, and I have very, very high hopes for him. I think that he could be a darn good reliever in this league for a while. And now that Fetter and Lund and Nieves have their hands on him, I'm even more excited than I already was. So I feel like he kind of made his debut, and I kind of just glossed over it, even though I'm a huge fan of his. So I wanted to give him proper time on the show to actually discuss why I think he's a good pitcher and to kind of lay out like going forward what to kind of expect from him. So I get like 2 hits, 1 run. Yeah, he had a double down the line, got hit off him. Like it wasn't a perfect outing by any stretch, but those strikeouts are nasty. Like he's got stuff and it'll play. Okay, let's talk about the offense. The offense in this game was clutch. That's really the only way to describe it. They have 11 hits, 9 runs, only 1 walk. So they had 12 base runners and 9 runs, the Tigers did in this one. The reason for that is because A, they got some power, but B, all of their hits were timely. And that's something that, goodness gravy, we have talked about so much on this show. How this team is just absolutely brutal with runners in scoring position, one of the bottom 3 teams in baseball, and pretty much any RISP stat there is. And so seeing like they went 6 for 11 with RISP in this ball game. It's over 500. Fantastic stuff. So Eric Haas with a double. Zack Shore, we'll talk about him later, but he had a clutch hit with runners in scoring position as well as a home run. Just a phenomenal day at the office there. Eric Haas had 3 2-out RBIs. Just, I mean, all around. Everybody. We'll talk about Torkelson and McKinstry. I think those were the only 2 that like notably struggled in this game. So we'll talk about them a little bit after the break here. But yeah, very, very solid offensive approach. And look, like we said it yesterday, and I want to give the team credit for hitting and teeing off of inferior pitching, just as though like in the same breath as yesterday where we complained about how they weren't getting the job done against inferior pitching. Like Brady Singer has not been good this year, even though he's dominated the Tigers in his career. He's been really, really struggling this season. And the Tigers, I mean, no issue seeing the ball. Only 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, had the homer, 7 hits in 7 innings, 5 earned runs in 7 innings. They were great. They had a great game plan. They executed it well. Everybody except for, again, really McKinstry and Torkelson, I thought, all had really good days at the office. And then Kowar rather, comes in at the end and they tee off him as well. So all around, great approach, great execution. The last 2 days, we've not been able to say that. It's nice to be able to say that against a team that you're better than. Okay, let's talk individuals. I want to talk kind of like bad end of the swing of things. That didn't even make sense. That's not a saying. In Torque and McKinstry, and then the positives in Kerry Carpenter and Zack Short. We'll do that right after this. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Here's third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. So let's talk Spencer Torkelson first and then Zack McKinstry. I guess we can just do Zack McKinstry really quickly because we've been saying it all season, and it's especially the last month, and it's really not anything new. His OPS, however, is now under 700. He has a 695 OPS. Like 2 or 3 weeks ago, this dude had an OPS over 800, and he's in such a slump that is now sub 700. And everybody, is talking about like he only had one strikeout in this game. He went 0 for 5, but it was 1K. And everybody's, like, oh, like the magic is over. Like he sucks now, whatever. Watch the ABs. It is consistently, I'm telling you, it is consistently fastballs up and away. He swings and misses at all of them. And then curveballs that like bounce on his shoe tops. He swings at all of them. Literally all of them. He still had some hard outs in this one. He had a hard liner to the right side in this one. He had a fly ball to center field that was hit pretty hard in this one as well. But he's consistently in behind in counts, 2 strikeouts, or just striking out because he offers at every single low curveball. And he swings and misses at all of them. And then they go fastball up and away in the strike zone. He swings and misses at all of those too. The fastball one is a giant hole in his swing in the strike zone. And the other one is just, he just, it looks good. Apparently the curveballs that are low, they just look good coming out of the hand to him. And he swings at every single one. He doesn't take any of them. So that's like, he's one adjustment away from going on another heater and drawing a million walks again. But like he needs to, obviously, this is Captain Obvious, but like he needs to stop swinging at those balls. So like I swear, just watch his ABs. Like it's nearly every single one, dog. I'm telling you. Like it's pretty fascinating how every pitcher has just figured out how to approach him every single time he steps into the batter's box. So that's it for McKinstry, really. Nothing new, just clearly needs to fix those two things. And if he doesn't fix those two things, well, then he's going to go right back to being kind of that 4A player that he was when we acquired him. But I would like to think that he has the ability to make some adjustments and go back to being a productive leadoff hitter, because in May, he was so valuable to this team. Okay, Spencer Torkelson. So full disclosure, yesterday's show, I had to record twice because my mic randomly just like cut out in the middle of it. And so I can't remember which one. I talked about Spencer Torkelson in one of yesterday's shows. And I think that the one that ended up working, because the mic was working the entire time, that one I don't think I touched on Torkelson as much as I originally intended to. So that's my fault. It wasn't my intention. But I did talk about him yesterday, and then just technology was technology. Thankfully for us, this is going to sound weird, Torkelson did not have any good at-bats in this game either, so it's still timely. The last week, it's very, very frustrating. And I say it's frustrating. I understand that it's probably incredibly frustrating for him as well. And this is like me as a member of the media, and like he's the one in the batter's box. He deserves all the respect of being a major league ball player. Okay, I don't intend to ever take away from the respect that person, anybody I talk about, rightfully deserves, because they're the one doing the thing and I'm not. So as frustrating it is for all of us to continuously watch him just have these ups and downs where he'll go on heaters and then just ice cold and then heater, there's no consistent results being had. And as frustrating as it is for us, I'm sure it's unbelievably frustrating to him as well. And I want to make that very clear. But that is what his season has been. It has been, what are we, 2.5 months into the season almost now, of just constant hot streaks and cold streaks. There was a solid like 10 games there earlier in June where his OPS was legitimately over 1,100 and he was hitting home runs and we were like, oh my goodness. And now the last week, his batting average is well under 200 in the last 7 days. And he's just fallen right back down to earth. And the OPS is around 700 in the last week. So it's just about finding a lick of consistency. He's shown the ability to go on heaters, and everybody has a different opinion as to why and whatnot, obviously. Um, I, the biggest thing I want to see him make an adjustment on currently, because I'm not going to ask him to just go from a 690 or a 680 OPS or whatever he's at right now, and then just randomly turn into Barry Bonds. I think that's ridiculous to ask of anybody, no matter when they were drafted or whatever. Um, what I do want to see is some adjustments made. And the biggest one that I want to see right now, just so, again, full transparency, so you know what I'm looking for when I watch the games and whatnot, is him to consistently be able to hit a changeup. That's it. He can have a 720 OPS the rest of the season. If his numbers against off-speed pitches get better, I will consider this a building block season, a stepping stone season. He can end as a league average hitter, and if he ends with like a 730 OPS and good numbers against the change, boom. I'm not going to call that like an overwhelming win, but like I can more than live with that, and then game plan and be excited about what's going to happen next year. But changeups destroy him at the moment, and I don't know if it's he's sitting fastball a lot, because for a while there last season he was getting torched by heaters. You can just throw a fastball right down the middle and he'd hit a fly ball, a routine cannon corn to right field. He's made an adjustment this year to where it's still not perfect. Trust me, there was still plenty of fastballs up in the zone or whatnot that he pops out. He pops out well over league average. But he at least has proven that he can hit fastballs that are over the heart of the plate at times. Okay. No, the bar is pretty low at the moment, but we're hear me out. His numbers against off-speed pitches are brutal. They're comfortably the worst of off-speed breaking ball or fastball, and they're all in the batting average for off-speed pitches, all in the 100s. And the slug is really my biggest thing against off-speed pitches, is in the low 200s, under a 300 slug against. Whereas the fastball, he hits really hard. He has the ability to have high exit velos for that. Breaking ball, you hang a slider low and in, he crushes it. That's been a consistent thing kind of all year. But changeups, just like spins like a top, man, just completely right through it. So that's the biggest thing I'm looking for right now. Baby steps. We're going to walk before we can run. I'm not asking the world of this dude overnight. I would just like to see him on a consistent basis be able to square up more than one pitch. Does that make sense? Okay, over the last week, he hit a lot of sliders and fastballs really, really hard. Well, he didn't hit any changeups. Okay, well, then he started sitting breaking ball and people started throwing in fastballs, and then he was late on fastballs again. I just want a nice, consistent period of time. Results be darned. And I know it's going to piss a lot of people off. I don't care. I just want a consistent period of time in which he is hitting two different sets of pitches well at the same time. And then I think you get a lot of people back on track to believing in you. So that's what I'm looking for. Let's talk about the good end of the swing there. Kerry Carpenter has been unbelievable. He has another hit in this ball game, an 831 OPS on the season. He goes 1 for 4. And he was working counts all game. And again, that's just, his development is so fascinating to me because he didn't used to do that. I never would have told you that. I mean, a calendar year and a half ago, nobody in their right mind would have told you this dude even would have ever been a consistent major leaguer. His development story is unbelievably impressive, but we kind of talked about that over the last 2 days. But just the ability to work counts, consistently working counts, my goodness. And so the only 1 for 4, but really good ABs all around. And then the hit in this game was a double to the opposite field. I'm telling you, it's unreal to me, the adjustments that this dude makes and how quickly he is able to make those adjustments and have them be successful. It's so impressive. I love me some Kerry Carpenter, man. Golly. I mean, who doesn't at this point? And then Zack Short. Zack Short, we all know my history with Zack Short. That sounds not right. But early on in the season, I had said, Zach Short is not going to surprise me. He is what he is. He's going to have a batting average under 100. He's going to run into a homer every once in a while, and he's going to walk. He can play multiple positions, but he's going to make some errors, et cetera, et cetera. Zach Short is a freaking ball player. I don't even really know how else to word it. He is just a baseball dude. I tweeted it out, but this season, Zach Short's average with runners in scoring position on a team that consistently is in the bottom three in that stat for all of 2023 and probably will remain there. Zach Short on the season after Wednesday's game has a batting average over 500 with runners in scoring position. And it's not a tiny sample size of 4 ABs either. He's got over 20 plate appearances with runners in scoring position and has 11 hits. I think it's 21 at-bats, 11 hits, and then he has 3 or 4 walks as well. So it's like 24 plate appearances. And even more so, he has multiple homers in that situation. And even more so, he has more walks than strikeouts with runners in scoring position this season. I think he only has 2, or it's either 4 walks and 3 strikeouts or 3 strikeouts and 2 walks. Just a ball player, man. Goes out, gives you. I think he should be the everyday second baseman. Like, I'm not kidding. He gives you great defense at second. He gives a great range. He gives you a lot of range running to the right side, especially. I don't think he's an everyday shortstop. I think that, I say there's going to be some throwing errors. Like, our shortstop doesn't have a million of those. And I would rather him at second than third. I don't want to see him in the outfield anymore. I legitimately, he should probably be. He went 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs in this game. He's got a 791 OPS, a 271 average, and homered. Not only homered, but also had a double with second and third 2 outs. It might have only been 1 on because Eric Hasen cleared the bases. Man on second, 2 outs. Oh, he had 2. He had 2 hits with runners in scoring position and the homer with nobody on. He's a ball player, man. And if I know I've already kind of like said I was very wrong about that statement earlier in the year. I can't say I was wrong enough. I love Zach Short. I love what he brings to this team. He should not only be on the roster, but he should be getting playing time pretty consistently at the moment. An absolute dog. All right. Is that it? Looking ahead, we play Minnesota this weekend. Currently, at the time of this recording, the Minnesota Twins are beating the Red Sox 3-2 in the top of the 4th inning. And the Tigers are 3.5 out of first place, despite being 9 games under 500. Shout out to the AL Central. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. For your next listen, check out Locked On MLB. We'll be back tomorrow. Like I said, we might do like an organizational update, talk a little bit about some prospects maybe. I don't know. We'll find out what we do. But it'll be a good show, I hope. All right? I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for rocking with me through this season, the last 2.5 seasons. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.